The biological warfare of birth. Sounds intense, right? Maybe even a little shocking. But today, we're going to explore how this very framing gives us a powerful new way to understand one of life's most fundamental and, most misunderstood processes. When we think about pregnancy, this is usually what comes to mind, right? We picture this beautiful, peaceful collaboration between a mother and child, a nurturing little bubble where a new life is just gently welcomed into being. It's the story we've all been told.
But what if I told you that from a strictly biological point of view, that's not really the whole story? What if the reality is actually a lot closer to this? A 9-month-long conflict, a high-stakes battle for survival fought on a microscopic level. Okay, so let's just set aside the greeting card version of pregnancy for a minute to look at the raw, fascinating biology of it all. We're going to re-examine this whole process not as a simple partnership, but as an incredibly complex biological conflict.
So in any conflict, you need two sides, and here are ours. On one side, you've got the mother's immune system. Its only mission? To identify anything that is not self and destroy it. It's the ultimate border patrol, no exceptions. And on the other side? The embryo. Genetically, it's 50% foreign material. Its mission is the exact opposite. Invade a foreign host, find a way to survive, and secure a constant flow of resources. The stage is absolutely set for a clash.
All right, let's get into the first act of this drama, the Great Invasion. This is where the embryo has to establish a critical foothold inside the mother's body, or fail entirely. And this really gets us to the central puzzle of pregnancy, doesn't it? How can something that is half foreign embed itself in a body that is literally programmed to attack and reject all foreign things? How on earth does it survive this first, most dangerous phase? Well, the answer is an evolutionary masterpiece, a temporary organ that's built by the embryo itself for this one single purpose, the placenta. It's the command center, the supply line, and the primary weapon in this whole biological campaign. Now, to really get this conflict, we have to understand the true nature of this organ. And you might want to forget those gentle images you have in your head, because biologically, the placenta's function is, well, it's incredibly aggressive. In fact, some biologists use a pretty shocking description for it, a parasitic octopus. And when you think about it, that metaphor it hits the nail on the head. It perfectly illustrates how the placenta operates with these tentacles that reach out and physically invade the mother's body to take what it needs. So let's break down how this invasion actually works. First, these placental cells, they just burrow aggressively deep into the uterine wall, locking the embryo in place. Then, and this part is incredible, they actually seize control of the mother's own arteries, remodeling them to create this high-flow, low-pressure pipeline of blood that goes directly to the fetus. And finally, it starts pumping out hormones to hijack and manipulate the mother's entire metabolism for its own benefit. It's a full-scale takeover. Okay, so the beachhead is established. Now the conflict changes. It becomes this long, drawn-out resource war, a constant 9-month biological tug-of-war for nutrients, for calories, for blood sugar, you name it. From a purely metabolic perspective, the fetus behaves like what some have called a ravenous tumor. Now, hold on, that's not to say it's a disease or anything malicious. It's just a metaphor to get across its single-minded, relentless demand for resources. Its only goal is to grow, and it will pull whatever it needs from the host to make that happen.
And the scale of that demand, it's just staggering. I mean, think about the mother's normal baseline needs for her own body. Now, on top of that, add the massive energy cost of the fetus. And then you've also got the placenta itself, that power-hungry command center. The resource drain on the mother's system is truly immense.
So how does this fetus-placenta team actually win this war? Well, it uses a whole toolkit of sophisticated tactics. It diverts the mother's blood, it chemically manipulates her blood sugar to keep it nice and high for easy access, it creates a little localized zone of immune suppression to protect itself, and it just keeps pumping out those hormones to control the mother's body. It is a masterclass in biological manipulation. After 9 long months of this invasion, this negotiation, this conflict, the war finally enters its last stage. But this isn't a surrender. No, it's more like an uneasy truce, where one side finally gets to call the shots. So let's look at the act of birth through this new lens. It's not just a beautiful arrival. It's really the culmination of the whole conflict. The mother's body, after hosting this successful, resource-draining entity for 9 months, finally moves to expel it and, in a way, reclaim its own biological sovereignty.
Now, it is so important to be clear here. Calling this a war doesn't mean it's malicious or negative or anything like that. Not at all. It's really just a framework to help us understand the powerful competing biological forces at play. This fierce, ancient negotiation between two distinct organisms is the very engine that allows our species to continue. It is a conflict that, when successful, results in the miracle of new life. And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought, right? If the very first chapter of our own existence is a story of invasion, of conflict, of a relentless fight to survive against absolutely incredible odds, what does that tell us about the sheer unyielding tenacity of life itself?